Hey y'all, I just picked up this awesome Lincoln Electric Power MIG. It's the 140C. It could do flux core or MIG. I've been wanting one of these for a really long time, so I'm super excited to finally have one in the shop. Currently, it's set up for MIG, but I did buy a 7520 gas regulator hose so that I could set this up to do MIG welding. That's also including, of course, reel of MIG wire. It's flux core and MIG wire, two different things. So we're going to take a look at this, see how it does, see how it operates, and really get to have some fun with it. I absolutely love welding, so this would be a great time for me. And you know, they say a monkey could MIG weld. We're about to find out. First things first, looking at the front of the machine, it's pretty basic. It's nothing too crazy. Again, Lincoln Electric 140C Power MIG. It's also able to do flux core welding. Here you can see we have our wire speed and our voltage, 1 through 10, A through J. We have our gun hookup and our ground cable coming out the front. Pretty basic on-off switch. Nothing too fancy, nothing too crazy. But hey, simplicity's not a bad thing, right? Now we get to see the insides of it. We got this really big spool on here of flux core wire. Pretty just normal setup for any wire, feed wire and welder. Nothing horrible, nothing crazy. What's really cool though, and my last welder didn't have, is actually right here on the door panel. And they have all different sizes of metal, the settings for them, wire speeds, voltages for different size wires, and then obviously for MIG or flux core. This really helps set you up so you can get the best weld possible without having to do too much crazy work to it. So what I have here is a piece of leaf spring that I got. I cleaned it up pretty good, made it mostly shiny. It's 5/16 thick, so we're going to use the guide on the inside of the door panel to see what our settings need to be on this Power MIG welder. So at 5/16 for flux core, we're going to come over here and we can see right here, no gas. These ones all have gas. No gas, 5/16 thick. Our wire size, I'm not really sure because the spool of wire was in this when I got it. We either have 0.03, so 30 thousandths, or 35 thousandths of an inch wire. I'm going to go with the bigger size, come down here to 5/16 and go over to that. And our wire speed of 3 and our voltage at max. And that should be able to help us get a good starting point, if not the perfect place, to run our flux core welder on. So here on our settings, I'm going to put our wire speed to 3 and our voltage to max, all the way around here to J. Let's see what this will do to a nice piece of leaf spring. Alright, first things first, we got our metal here. I got my grand clamp right to the leg of the table. The whole thing's one giant conductor, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But we're gonna take this, we're gonna power this up, close our lid, and let's see what we can get. Alright, so for the first go around, obviously flux core, so we get that kind of slag buildup. Get that off. There's quite a bit of splatter, but it's not a horrible looking weld. I'm actually kind of surprised by that, just how nice that weld turned out for being flux core. Again, it runs really nice. This one I did a circular pattern on instead of the last one where I did a side-to-side pattern. Let's chip it. Again, that one's a little high, but that might just be the pattern I was running. It's throwing a lot of slag. I don't know how I feel about that. The welds definitely are getting penetration, so that's good. I think I'll run one more. Right beside that. Let's see here. So there's 3 welds, all by each other, about an inch a piece, give or take, plus or minus. It definitely gets penetration, which is really cool. I'm actually kind of surprised how well this is penetrating for being a flux core. Give this a second to cool and then we'll chip it. Again, not looking bad, but ton of slag. I'm going to play with the settings a little bit. I'm going to play with the power. I'm going to go from J to F. I'm going to run another one underneath those 3 just to see if we can't reduce the amount of slag we're getting. Now we definitely got less slag, but I think you can see that weld's not as nice as our previous 3. It's there, definitely not as much penetration, but for a flux core that's still pretty impressive. So I've been welding down on all of these. I'm gonna go sideways, turn it this way. I'm gonna go this way just to see what I can get. I'm by no means a professional welder. I'm just a guy that enjoys it. As an automotive technician, I've done a bunch for exhaust pipe, but we've always had a really good MIG welder, not flux core. So that might be the big key here. I mean, it's doing pretty phenomenal on the MIG, I won't lie, with the penetration. I'm not upset. For the purposes in which I need it, this is doing pretty good. They might not be pretty, but when you're just welding together stacked Damascus, or something, it's not going to be that big of a deal. It doesn't have to be that pretty. No one's ever going to see it. You know the old saying, can't see it from my house, and if you squint, it's mint. Let's run one this way. So I went a little bit longer on that weld, but it was running pretty decent. And the slag amount is much less. It definitely didn't produce as much slag as it did up here. It's not a half bad looking weld, truth be told. Grab it with our pliers here. It's not horrible by any stretch of the imagination. It definitely will do exactly what it is I want it to do. That's still a pretty viable weld, just in its own right as a flux core welder. I mean, those welds would do everything I need it to do. I don't know that flux core's ever been known for being pretty, but these are alright. They would hold what I'm doing with it. A little fab work here and there. So I think the Lincoln Electric 140C as a flux core welder by its own right, phenomenal. That works pretty well. I can't even be angry with that. Those welds would do more than enough to hold what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm welding Damascus billets together before they go into forge, so that when I press on them after the forge, they stick together. I think this welder would do that just as a flux core. Obviously that option's cheaper than buying all the stuff for MIG, but guess what? I bought the stuff for MIG. Also, I guess it is worth noting, kids, if you're gonna weld, have an adequate or, you know, half decent welding helmet. Me personally, I have the Snap-on auto darkener. Bought this thing years ago, works great. I can't argue with it. Been using it for years. Uses AAA's instead of the fancy watch batteries, so they're not as hard to find. I like it. It's important to have proper protection when welding, good ventilation, eye protection, that kind of shit, right? Now we're gonna set the machine up for MIG welding. I bought a regulator, I bought a tank of 2575 CO2 argon gas. This is the tank. I didn't get a big one. And then my regulator, I got the Pro Star by Lindy regulator and hose. It was about $100 at Lindy Gas Supply. So, alright, not bad. The tank was right around $300. So it's a little pricier to get into, but I've always liked MIG better than anything. And then obviously don't forget about your spool of MIG wire. That was about another $30 for the small one. It's about $100 for the big spool of wire. But let's go ahead and set the machine up, see how it does with MIG gas. Whoop-a-doo. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do. Come on now. Aha. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So I can see them again. Aha! Da 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 da. Aha! Gotta take that off. From the looks of it, should just be this wing nut here, but I could be mistaken. There it is. Oh look, we can see our wire diameter too. Now we have all of these in here. Let's see if we can figure out how to get our smaller MIG spool in. So, once you get the big spool out, you'll need this adapter, which there's a flat spot on the end of the shaft here. That lines up, and then you just put this on loosely. I undid my tensioner here, ran my spool of wire into the block. Now, it really should just be a matter of pulling the trigger on our gun, and it should pull it in. And just like that, what we'll do now is we'll take our gun and we'll make the line as straight as possible and wait until the wire starts coming out the end of the gun. Waiting and waiting. I could feel it coming, y'all. It's working its way up. See, what I should have done was cranked our wire speed all the way up. There we go. Let's try this. There we go. Look at that. All right, so now we'll just trim our wire and call that a day. Now we're going to set our gas regulator, and first thing you want to do is check the manual for your welder. See what your welder recommends. Again, we have that really cool plate on the door, and if you look right here, you can see 30 to 40 cubic feet per hour. That's what we're looking for. So when we go to adjust our regulator here, we're going to open our bottle, and I'll secure this tank. There, our tank valve opened up really good. And then we're going to turn our knob till it reads between 30 and 40 cubic feet per hour. You guys can see that needle's going up. And I think what we'll do is we'll call it good once it reaches 30. Like right there, just above 30. I think that ought to be alright. So, tank's open, regulator's set, wires properly installed. We didn't have to do anything with the electrical hookups down here because it was already where it needed to be. So we're going to come up here, and you can see here's our 75 argon, 25% CO2. All right, come down here to our 5/16, and it says multi-pass required. In other words, it's too thick to go the whole way through. That's all right. We'll just keep it right where it was for the flux core and see what it does. And flux core when we were doing that for our wire size was 3 and max. So 3 on the wire speed and max on the voltage. Wire speed and max on our voltage. So here we go, first pass on the MIG setup. Now, I'm using the same piece of leaf spring that I had, I just flipped it over. So, make sure my nozzle's cleaned out real good. Let's give it a go. Yo, look at that. Without even getting the camera close, you could see the lack of splatter on that. That is one clean weld. It isn't very deep. It got penetration. Maybe turn my wire speed down a little bit, try to get it to level out. Let's see. Yo, I am pretty happy with that. Got a little extra light on the situation now. Let's do this again. Turn down my wire speed a little bit. See what we can do. That's still really impressive. It's a little smaller, but it might also be my travel time. Like I said, I'm not a professional welder. I'm just a guy that likes to get two pieces of metal stuck together. And I could not be happier with that. That's right there from the Lincoln Electric Power MIG 140C. 2 welds with the MIG gas. You can already see the huge lack of slag from our flux core to this. That's freaking awesome. I'm gonna run a couple more just because I'm too happy to stop. I think that'll stick two pieces of metal together. Let's try going the opposite direction. Try pushing instead of pulling. Now that's a nice looking weld. That definitely gave a much better finished product right there. That last bead right there, that's pretty phenomenal. Holy crap, nice and flat, lots of penetration. Yes sir, I think MIG's going to be the way to go for what I'm doing. So I think it goes without saying, flux core is good, MIG is better. For my application, the MIG setting on this Lincoln Electric 140C is definitely what I'm going to be using from now on. You guys saw the proof in the pudding. The slag amount just isn't there with the MIG. Much cleaner welds, a lot prettier. Like I said, mine don't really matter, but I'll take MIG. So hey, I hope this video helps you all if you're looking into getting one of these. Lowe's sells them. They're about $800 new. I bought mine off Facebook Marketplace for $400. It's not brand new, but it's not that old, so not a bad deal. $400, and then between the tank and the regulator, I did pretty good. I think I might have a total of $700 in it. So if you're looking into getting one of these, the Lincoln Electric Power MIG 140C do both flux core and MIG welding. I'm kind of in love, partial to that MIG, but hey, you do you. And remember, whiskey helps.